Hey everybody, it's Mike. I know, really surprised because it's my channel, so who'd you think it was gonna be, right? Just gonna check the volume real quick, make sure I have some. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I don't think I do. See if we... Now we'll see what we got. Okay, good. I have volume. I'll wait for everybody and their brother to join in. Basically, I'm just using a. See if I can loosen this up just a little bit. So I've got a little rig tying board here. Apparently that's as far as it's going to let me go. So that's what I'm working with tonight. Just kind of put this together earlier and figured if I was going to tie some rigs, I might as well, see if anybody wants to hang out and chat. So I will do my thing, and if anybody comes in, that'll be awesome. Orion's fan. That seems like a really strange thing to do. Thanks for being drunk, high, or just a child. I don't know, whatever makes you happy, bro. Um, I guess you get some kind of enjoyment from life by just coming into live streams and saying some of the dumbest things I've seen in a long time. So, I guess congratulations to you living your best life there, buddy. I'm going to adjust the camera. Can't adjust as much as I'd like, but we'll get it somewhere down here. Hey, Jessica. And my future self, even better. So I'm just see if I can scroll it up a little bit. Nobody needs to see my giant belly. So I'm just tying up some rigs. I'm hoping to go saltwater fishing down in the Gulf for spring break. Still working on that. We'll find out how that goes. Hello, Italian Power. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. Wasn't really necessarily planning to go live, but decided that if I'm going to be up tying rigs, maybe there's somebody else awake that just needs a place to hang out and chit chat. Hey, Sherwood. Blessings to you and yours as well, my friend. Let's see where I'm at on this one. I've already, what have I done? Well, I made a 3-dropper rig, but that's okay. Fix that real quick. There's a 1 and a 2. cut this third knot out real quick. So what I'm doing, basically it's for a pompano rig, double dropper rig. So I'm doing 2 of the dropper loops, and then I'm tying a rather large double surgeon's loop, which is just 2 overhand knots looped up. And that will be to go into a sinker or around, so you can put the line into the eye of the sinker, go all the way around the sinker, and then come through it like this. And that way, if you want to take it off later, you can just by pulling this knot back out. And I'm spooling them up on another spool. So once I put that loop on, I'm putting the swivel on for the next leader. And then I'm coming around and tying a trilane knot, because the swivel will actually start. This is the top of the next leader. 2, 3, 4, and 5. And for those of you who are not familiar with my channel, I've been creating a playlist with a whole bunch of knot strength test videos. So I have a linear actuator and a pull gauge, and basically I'm testing a bunch of different knots because I've seen several people do tests, but I either didn't like their methodology or they didn't test the knots I was interested in. And I kind of wanted to have them all in one place where, using the same equipment, using the same methodology, etc. Hello, Chrissy. How are you doing, dear? Good to see you. Good to see you. Just doing some rigs, tying up, getting ready, hopefully for a trip to the Gulf this spring break. And I finally put a rig tying board together today. Put one together in the past, but I wasn't really happy with how it was going. I'm doing fabulous, dear. I hope you and Ernie are doing wonderful. Sounds like Ernie's been out doing some hunting over the winter. Well, that's good. Glad to see you guys getting out and fishing. I hope you both are in good health. Good. Okay, so I get my 2 dropper loops on this one. Get those pulled up here. And then zip. Oh, I understand, Chrissy. I try to use speech to text a lot in the chats, and it gets some of my words real fun. Well, Ernie's the same way. If you don't beat up on him, he's not going to work either, right? So I'm just taking what will be the sinker end of the rig and doing just I think it's a hitch knot, just so I can pull it out later. And then I'm tying on the next rig with a trilane knot, because in my testing of this 20-pound mono, it seems to be one of the strongest knots for this line anyway. At least, I mean, the no knot snell seems to beat everything, but you can't do a no knot snell on a swivel. Get that pulled down. Snip off my tag end. Get another couple of dropper loops going. Chrissy, is that the keyboard on your computer you're having issues with? Thank you, Chrissy. Appreciate it. Yeah, those laptop keyboards are not inexpensive to replace. I usually try to turn mine upside down and gently nudge it against the desk a few times and see if I can get anything to pop out from under the keys. Man, this rig time board, I keep thinking I'm not as far along as I am. And this makes it really easy. Yeah, if all else fails, you can always do the external keyboard route. So I'll just try to explain the rig board a little bit here. So this is my feeder spool. That's the line that I'm using. It comes to these 3 pegs, and I will bring the line up, wrap around these pegs. If I do it the right way. Always easier when you're not holding it. So wrap around these 3 pegs, and so it goes back around, and then we'll have it hooked over on the other side, and then you twist this side 6 half twists, and then you pull the other end of the loop through that new loop you've created. And I will probably do a much better, actually do a video on the rig at another time. Got 5 folks in here. Appreciate each and every one of you for coming in and behaving. I know that's rich coming from me, but you know, it is what it is. That was very odd. Not even sure how I managed to do that. I think I must have gone under the line the wrong way the second time when I was creating my trilene knot, because it just pulled right off. Yeah, let's do this again. So I think for the first time I'm up to over 2,200 watch hours in the last year. I've been flirting with 2,100 for a while. Seemed like I was losing as many as I was picking up. Well, they were expiring. And the most views I've gotten on any of my videos were when I was down in Pensacola. So if I indeed go back there for spring break, I'm hoping to do a lot of live streams and all that fun stuff, and at least get me up over 25. I've got the subs, I just don't have the hours. But I also went on a hiatus from YouTube for a while, so there's that. Get some twist out of this. Yeah, I've been seeing Ernie more lately. Good to see him in a lot of these live streams. Seems like y'all both kind of took a break there for a while, or maybe just in other videos. So I recently uploaded a video about the small rig. I don't remember the model number. I want to say DS007, but I may be absolutely positively confused. Basically, the idea was to clean up some of the tripods around my desk and that kind of thing. And it just doesn't do what I want. I've heard so many good things about small rig that I was really excited to get this, but it's not as useful as I need it to be. And I probably should have known that before I bought it. For instance, the arm that sticks out for the camera is a fixed length. So I can't move it around as much as I would like. And tomorrow I should be getting the newer forearm one. It has 4 arms on it, so I mean, one of them's supposed to be able to hold a monitor or a laptop. I'm not sure if I'm going to be using it for either of those purposes. But you know, it'll hold the light, it'll hold, should be able to get it to hold multiple cameras, so I can do the overhead shots as well as the like the live stream stuff. He lost over half the blood in his body? That takes work. Is he just not replenishing like he should, or what's going on? Hey, Backwoods Mindset, good to see you, my friend. Just sitting here tying up some rigs, double dropper rigs. I've got some more hooks coming in tomorrow. Through my line strength testing, I found out that some of my hooks just suck. I'm not sure if I got them off Temu or Amazon or Academy or where I got them from, but I learned a little bit, put it like that. Yeah, these are my 1/0 circle hooks, so they're a little more light wire than I wanted them to be, if you know what I mean. I had one type that basically just bent out straight, and then the other one, it would bend out, it'd flex out, and then when the pressure was released, it would mostly bend back into shape. So they're not as bad, but those Silver finished ones are not good. Ooh, which Bass Pro circle hooks were you using that you weren't having good luck with? I've got the, oh, okay, I've got some of these offshore angler. These are their 3X heavy wire. It's a size 5/0. It looks a little small, it'd be 5/0 to me, but, and I haven't had any problems with them not staying straight, but yeah, Cat Max, that's one of their private labels. Some people really like the Cat Max reels, and some people not so much. I realize we're talking about the hooks, but still. What kind of problems were you having with them? Were they just not staying buttoned up, or not getting buttoned up, or were the hooks failing? You know, that was one of my reasons for not being so worried about buying hooks off of Temu, because, you know, if they're not sharp, I can sharpen them. But circle hooks are a pain in the rear end to sharpen. You know, normal J hooks and such, not a problem, but circle hooks they're just not fun to sharpen. And even the sharpest hooks can come into problems because, you know, they're thrown into these bags and they're shipped in the bags, and, you know, they can get rattled around and, you know, damage each other just by, you know, rubbing up against each other in the bag during shipping and all that fun stuff. Not making excuses, but, you know, I've had some good brand hooks that, you know, most of them were really sharp. There were a couple of kind of duds in there. You know, for live stream catfishing specifically, circle hooks are awesome. For lazy catfishing, circle hooks are awesome because, you know, the fish is pretty much doing all the work. You know, you just kind of have to hang out, let them take it far enough in, apply a little bit of pressure, and, you know, the hook will set itself. And, you know, that also, I'm a big proponent of circle hooks. It's pretty much all I use in saltwater or for catfish. And, you know, I like the fact that you're much less likely to gut hook them. But, you know, especially if you're fishing for meat, I don't know that it matters if you gut hook them, right? I mean, you're planning to take it home anyway. Um, and if you're being more active in fishing and like setting hooks and that kind of stuff, then of course, you know, circle hooks really aren't the best thing for you anyway, because you just pull them right straight out of the mouth. And I've even gone to trying to use non-offset circles, so in line, where the point is in line with the shank, just because for certain species of reef fish, etc., it's a requirement. You can't target them with offset circles because there's a higher mortality rate. How much higher? Yeah, there's a question for you. But still, so I figure it's easier to have one style of hook and go with it. You do lose out on some fish by using inline circles. You're not going to have the same hookup ratio, but I don't know that it's enough to matter. It's not enough to matter to me. How's that? course, we've all seen how well I fish, so yeah, not a big issue, right? And this year I plan, don't we all, to do more kayak fishing. Um, Last year I had a kayak but not a truck, and while I could have, in theory, loaded my kayak on my car, those Old Town Sportsmen are not light. It's over 100 pounds, and I don't know, I've gotten to a point where I can find an excuse not to go, and I need to quit doing that. Because once I get out there, I really enjoy myself. Thoroughly enjoy myself. And it's kind of funny when, you start talking about kayaks, people are like, well, for as much as you're going to spend on a kayak, you can get a boat. And that is true. For as much as you spend on a new kayak, you can get a used boat. Not a great boat, but it'll float. Probably start most of the time. But, and I have a boat too. But I feel closer to nature in the kayak. There's of course the fear of spilling out, which I've proven I can do. Of course, I looked at the specs on that kayak that I fell out of, or that I rolled over. There's no, I mean, it was a rental, and I mean, I knew rentals were cheap, but I didn't know everything, and I was way over weight capacity on that kayak, and yeah, but I had a good time in it, until I rolled it over. Backwoods, I feel your pain. I've got a Tracker Pro Guide V175, and I have to park it sideways in the garage, or not sideways, but diagonally. And so now my vehicle stays outside, which in my neighborhood is not a problem as far as safety and stuff. But there's something nice about, when it's raining, not getting wet, getting in your car, and when it's icy and, you don't have to worry about defrosting your windshield and all that kind of fun stuff. Hey, Angie, good to see you, dear. Yeah, Shannon was live earlier and said that you had gone out fishing, but I did not get a notification that you went live. I don't know if you were live or if you were just out hanging out and fishing for fun or what. Hey, MVP, good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. MVP has been doing a lot of lives lately too. The man is a fishing machine. Saw him the other day on the bank of the Mississippi. At least I think it was Mississippi. And he was squatted down fishing, like, butt on the back of his ankles. And I'm just sitting there going, my knees, ankles, and every other joint in my legs and back hurt just watching that. Like, I wish I had that flexibility. How are you going to up your game, Backwood? Just plan on getting out more, or taking it more seriously, or trying to get the YouTube thing going more fishing lives? Yeah. It's frustrating when you don't have a ton of subs because, you know, what makes live streams so much fun is the interaction with chat. Chat makes the live stream. It really does. I mean, there's only so much that the host can do to be engaging without, you know, some help from the audience. And I mean, once chat gets rolling, oh my goodness! I mean, then it's just nothing but fun. It's just getting to that critical mass where you've got enough people coming into the live streams. Christy, I do have a lot of subs, but I don't have a lot of watchers, if that makes sense. Um, you know that the shorts with there are 400 billion channels on YouTube and yada yada yada. I did several of those, and that helped get me. My goal was to get up over 1,000 with a little cushion, and it absolutely did that. And now I'm growing more organically, um, because it's not just number of subs, right? Thanks for stopping in, Angie. Have a wonderful evening, and hopefully you'll go live tomorrow, and I'll have something to watch during the day. I know Shannon says she's off tomorrow, so maybe two of you can get out there and do some fishing. Shannon caught a red horse sucker tonight, and she was just happy as she could be. So the knot strength tests that I've been doing, I try to go into anything like that with an open mind, because in my corporate life I've had to do product evaluations where I knew what the outcome had to be, um, and I hate doing those. But you know, your boss tells you that's what you do, and he signs a paycheck, so you do what you got to do. And it was never anything horrible. It was just, you know, I don't know. I like to start from, you know, I mean, we all have preconceived notions. I think we've all heard many times that, oh, the Palomar knot is 100% knot. It has 100% or more breaking strength. I actually saw some videos on YouTube, guys saying that this knot, a knot, had 200% breaking strength. How do you measure that? How do you test that? How do you with a straight face, and of course it was nothing but, you know, clickbait. But how do you say that a knot is 200% stronger than the line that's attached to? I don't know. It's impossible. Backwoods, what area are you out of, my friend? Oh, Ohio or Tennessee? I know it sounds like a dumb question, but when I was in high school, I met a girl from Cleveland, Tennessee. It's a very pretty girl, very smart girl. Did not get her phone number, but it was high school. Um, well, you know, the good thing about Cleveland is, you know, Cleveland rocks. Okay, that was bad. Yeah, when I think of backwoods, I do not think of Cleveland. So let's see. Cincinnati's the one near Kentucky. So Cleveland's the one that's on Lake something or another, right? I want to say Ontario, but I'm probably wrong. Erie. See, that's very close. It was. I had a 1 in 5 chance of getting it right. I was pretty sure it wasn't the big lake they call Gitchgumi. But yeah, I had to go up to Toronto last year, and then started looking at maps, and I was like, "That's where Cleveland is. It's right on a Great Lake. That's unfair." Because I mean, I would not know how to begin to fish a Great Lake. I am perplexed by the Mississippi River because it doesn't seem that big until you get out on it, and then you're like, where there's just so much water. It's like, where do you even start? I know, terrible problems to have. MVP, yeah, especially if you get, the thermostat set, it doesn't switch between heat and cold and it changes stuff. I know you just start, but it's like, oh, that looks good over there. Oh, that looks good over there. And then I just am one of those that I get overwhelmed and I'm like, too many good options. And I do that to myself. I'm one of those people that I overthink things and overwhelm myself. An example is like home repairs. It's like, well, if I'm gonna put a new faucet in, I might as well put a new vanity in. If I put a new vanity in, I might as well do the floor. If I'm gonna do the floor, I might as well do the shower. If I'm gonna do the shower, by the time I've just talked myself out of being able to do anything, just paralysis by analysis, I believe, because then it just turns into a giant project that I'm like, this all I wanted to do was change a faucet. Anyway, how do your dogs make you fall asleep? I've always found that having an animal in bed, I toss and turn, they toss and turn, they toss and turn, I toss and turn. Then again, I'm more of a cat person, so there's that. There you go. It's like I could tackle the project or at least start it, or I could lay down, take a nap, and think about it. I can appreciate that. Pretty much what I think about work every day. On the team call this morning, my boss was decided to mess with me. He's like, yeah, they've decided they're doing the return to work. Everybody has to be back in the office on Monday and do the full 40-hour week in the office. And me and another guy that's local at work remote were like, better dust off that resume. Ooh, yeah, I know all about those projects. You start on them and you're like, yeah, Yeah, they don't bother me enough. It's funny because when I was dating, I dated this one lady, and there part of her bedroom was had just been sheetrocked. There had been some damage or something. And sheetrock, it hadn't been mudded right or anything. And I was sitting there going, how could somebody live like this? And then I'm like, redid the shower probably 3 years ago and the floor, and still have not bothered getting the walls painted. So yeah, I get it. Somehow when it's your mess, yeah, it's different. It's one of the things that scares me about living with somebody again. I mean, I don't like living alone, except when I like living alone. I don't have to ask anybody if what they want for dinner or any of that kind of stuff. Hey, Matt, good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. Glad to see you up this late and all that stuff. I'm just tying some rigs in preparation of hopefully going down to the Gulf in a week. There's my results so far. Yeah, I mean, those are all loops hanging off there. That's why it looks like hot garbage. But they will despool easily, which is nice. And then I can, slap the hooks on them that I want or any kind of dress up I want to do to them. Matt, are you going to make it to the gathering this year? Jody took Ashley and I on her boat last year, and Ashley caught her first catfish, and it was like a 25, 26 pounder. So needless to say, she's hooked. She's going to the gathering. I may be invited. Backwoods. So Daryl over at Trophy Seeker Outdoors, every year for the past few years, they have a get together. It's mostly content creators, but doesn't have to be. It's fans and stuff and all that go to. It's in Hickson, Tennessee, at Chester Frost Park, which is on Lake Chickamauga. And so it's part of the Tennessee River system, and everybody meets up one weekend, camps or gets hotels or whatever they want to do, and we fish together, hang out. There's a group meal that we have together. And last year, I won some hooks, and Ashley won a rod from a force rod from Triple City Anglers. So she was all excited about that. So we had a good time. We got to meet a bunch of different people. Yeah, meetups are fun. And Daryl and Woody put a lot of time and energy into um, not only just getting, you know, putting it together, but getting sponsors and prizes and stuff that like last year, Steve Douglas was there, and um, it was nice to meet him. And Matt from Want to Be Outdoors was there. Of course, Pontoon Jody was there. Cool Cats was, but I missed him because he was not feeling well, and he left. We actually saw him drive out of the park because I recognized the boat. Ate buffalo and a grass carp today. Awesome. Yeah, I was in that live for a little bit, and then duty called at work. You know how it goes. Something about thinking that because they pay me, they get to tell me what I need to do with my life and stuff like that. Yeah, like last year, Josh. It was Josh from the bait shop. It's closed now. Something Outdoors and More, and his last name is the Outdoors and More part. He brought a ton of frozen skipjack. I mean, biggins, and just kind of gave them away. Thompson, Josh Thompson. Um, he supplied bait for us. Bobcat Outdoors provided some pulled pork barbecue, and I think a couple other people did barbecue, and it was awesome. It was awesome. I had a really good time, and you wouldn't know it from how I behave in most of the live streams, but I'm a very shy person, and I don't like crowds where I don't know a lot of people, and you know, I don't know. It I was glad to get to meet a bunch of people that. Oh my goodness, is that Scotty? And if I'm not mistaken, is today Scotty's birthday? It's either today or tomorrow. Yeah, see, I probably shouldn't say this out loud. Congratulations, Scotty. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday. Or as Travis say, happy birthday! Um, I have not heard people having a lot of good luck with that Blue River carp stuff. And I don't know. I've never tried it. If I'd have known that it was out there to try, I would have done it. It's definitely good to see somebody doing something with Asian carp. Um, it's amazing how prolific those things are. Thank you, Backwoods. I have 18 people in here and 10 thumbs up. Wow. I'm more impressed by the 18 people. Um, well, I sure messed that one up. My loop's not very far from the sinker, but I'll live. We'll definitely get over it. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, right? I mean, the one thing that the Blue River Carp does is, they have it really infused with oil. Whereas, like the dried shad and stuff that you get at Walmart is pretty um, nothingness about it. There's nothing exciting about it. Um, is that the Fiber Nuggets? Is that Catfish Pro or is that a different brand? One of the companies has a brand of they call Fiber Nuggets. Um, I mean, I think I don't know if the companies will tell you this, but I'm pretty sure all of us are of the opinion that if you can get fresh bait, use it um, over anything you can find in the store. Hey, Hitch. Yeah, Jake, I've been haven't been able to sleep. I've been waiting for that kayak to arrive. Tell you, the Postal Service is just not doing well. Can't believe they haven't gotten that kayak here yet. It's been, what, a year? Over a year. That's okay. I have faith, and I'm patient. Memory serves, you are up in Alaska right now. How's Alaska besides, north, cold, and desolate? Have a good night, Backwoods Mindset. Thanks for coming in, my friend. Well, Hitch, I am just tying up rigs, hoping to go saltwater fishing for spring break this year. I am fortunate in that Ashley's parents have a house in Pensacola, and it's nothing to her to go there because even before her parents got the house there, they used to vacation there a couple of times a year. So, all growing up, she's used to going, and I'm sitting there going, up until last year, I believe it was last year, I had never been saltwater fishing. So I was absolutely ecstatic at just having the opportunities. Hey, Gigability. Well, y'all are making me not want to have to go to bed, but I'm going to have to go to bed here pretty soon. So my knot strength testing has pushed me into using the trilene knot where I would normally use the Palomar knot. Um, it had a better showing and seemed to be more consistent. And as I'm learning to tie it, I mean, it's not hard to tie at all. Um, Hitch, I don't know if you saw it, but I did do one. Uh, Actually, I don't know if it's even published yet. Um, I've got stuff scheduled into next week already because I don't want to overload everybody with my videos. I figure 2 a day is usually enough. Um, but I've got one on crimps, and I was surprised how much they slip on mono. Um, I mean, my crimping pliers aren't the greatest in the world, but they're also not, you know, absolute garbage. Um, and this is rated, it's like 0.1 to 0.5 millimeter, zero point 0.5 to 10 to 1.0. And I actually was using 0.7s and had to use the smallest setting, the lowest setting, because otherwise they really would slip. So here's what I've done this evening, and it's all a mess because as they come off, you get the two. That's where the sinker's going to go. Then you get dropper loop 1, dropper loop 2, and then there's my swivel. So all these are strung together, so they should come off easily. Tomorrow when I get some more hooks in, I'll do a strength test on the hooks, and then I will probably dress some of these up. For these 20-pound rigs, those will be going on for pompano and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to have 1/0 circle hooks on those, and the 1/0s that I have, I had two different types. One of them just straightened out at under. Oh, there's one right there. And this one didn't. This one didn't actually break the line yet. That's what the circle hook looked like. Um, and that's the nicer of the two that I use. So those are gone. That's 20-pound line, and absolutely positively not. Um, that one I ran out of pull room on my puller. And then the second ones that I had were, they also bent some, but they more went back into their regular shape. But it still doesn't instill confidence in me. I had to think that I was going to fish with stuff like this. I mean, this got to probably 16 pounds before it. Yeah, it's horrible. Um, the thing was, when I got them, I was like, they're sharp. They grab the thumbnail just fine. But the knot strength test told me the hook strength ain't there. I've got so much garbage on my desk. It is truly ridiculous how many pieces of line and swivels and all that kind of stuff that I've done from these tests, and I am nowhere near even started. I think I'm gonna do a few tests on these dropper loops. Probably post a video on that at some point, and then hopefully I'll be done with 20-pound mono for a little bit. And then I'm going to try to compare the Suffix 40-pound with the Trilene Big Game 40-pound a little bit, and then move on to some heavier stuff, probably more trying to stay in the 50 and 60-pound range, because I do not like... I got bit several times by mono as it would break and smack me. Of course, I was also reaching over the rig to hit the power button, so I quit doing that. And I haven't had any more issues like that, but that gets under a lot of stress, and I definitely don't want to hook flying into anything. Yeah, there's no shortage of good brands of hooks. Um, I try to be a value oriented guy. Yeah, I've got a rig tying station here that I built today, so enjoying doing that. Um, it makes building those dropper loop rigs so much easier. Um, the Berkeley Pro Spec, you know, Matt, I don't want to give too much away, but the 20-pound Trilene Big Game breaks at about 40. Try again. At about 28 pounds. The 40-pound Suffix breaks at about 50 pounds, and I think the Trilene Big Game is about the same. So as far as strength goes, I don't have any problem with any of them. Now that's the line strength. That's not knot strength, of course. Um, I would like to. The only braid that I have is like Hercules or off-brand stuff like that. I'd like to get a hold of some Power Pro, but I'm cheap. Ain't gonna lie. Um, spending $20 to test line that I won't pay for in the real world seems kind of silly. Hey, Stacy, good to see you, my friend. I'm about to wrap things up. I just came to a few knot tying tests. God, I'm fat. That is not a good look right there. Let's make me prettier. There we go. Because the tests I've done on the braid so far has not even gotten to the rated strength. Like 20-pound breaks at about 18 pounds. But that's not all bad, because the actuator does about 0.7 inches per second, and braid has zero stretch. So when it gets to its breaking point, there it goes. And I don't know that the pull tester is going to be a few milliseconds behind. I don't know that it gets the full strength of it before it loses the pressure. Um, I don't think that the line is bad. I was expecting better results because, I mean, when I try to pull 20-pound mono, I can break it. That's not a big problem. Um, I can't break 20-pound braid, at least not without wrapping around a whole bunch of things that aren't my hands, because it will cut you. Yeah, Power Pro is good line. Don't get me wrong. I have nothing against Power Pro, other than the price. Um, and what I would like to see that I don't think is out there, it may be out there, and it's just a premium thing that I don't haven't found yet. I don't understand why they don't take braid and obviously this is not how they would do it, but have this big vat full of melted mono and just run it through the run the braid through it and then kind of like squeegee it off at the end so that you get some of the mono coating on the braid, kind of like a hybrid line. It has the abrasion resistance of mono, but the strength of braid and the no stretch and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I think out loud a lot. A lot of the knots that I've been testing are things that I kind of create in my head. Now that's weird. I'm watching on two different screens here, and can I change? No. Not sure how I can refresh that one, but yes, so I'm not seeing the comments up there. Yeah, yeah, less abrasive. It would. One of the things I hate about braid is how it sounds going through the guides, even if it's not actually doing damage. Back when it first came out, the guides were not made for that. They are kind of now, but I don't know. I just kind of want that coating on there. You'd like to see the dropper loop test? Okay, well, I'll definitely do it. I've done some preliminary testing, and it seems to, at least in some of the tests, I'm getting 20 pounds out of 20-pound mono, which yeah, I'd like to see closer to 25, but I've looked for alternative knots as well, and there really aren't a lot of alternatives like the double surgeon's loop or the triple surgeon's loop. I've tested, I didn't realize I'd tested the triple surgeon's loop. I have it listed on the testing as the Richard Gene, the fishing machine loop knot, because that's all I've ever known it as. Um, and it is not very strong. Um, the saw something called the butterfly knot, which looked promising and sounded promising until I put it on the Knotbuster 6000 and it said, nope, denied. So, Matt, basically what I do, we can see that very well, not as well as I'd like, but so you create a loop, and the rigging board does all this for me. But you got the two ends at the top, so you got the one end going this way and the other end going the other way. So one end will go towards the swivel and one end will go towards the sinker. And then you just run these two lines, you twist them 3 entire revolutions or 6 half turns, which these are all half turns, 6 or 8 or whatever. So when you get this loop, you then take the back end of the loop, the single piece, like so. And if you're doing it by hand, you run out of hands. So that's a single loop that's in my mouth. And then you pull this out. And I'll use one of these pegs on this rigging board because that's what I use. And you just kind of tighten the knot down, like so. And then you get that knot. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, that's how you do it. Okay. Yeah. And like I say, I wish there were more options because there are a lot of boutique knots out there. Um, when I was doing my research for this, right? One of the things I wanted to find was if you've ever tried to tie 60-pound mono, and let me tell you, once you tie 100-pound mono, 60-pound is like a breeze. But I tried to tie 60-pound mono knots, and it's like these are ridiculous. I mean, the wiriness of the line. 100-pound is even worse, and the knots that you're used to. In 100-pound, you really can't tie them very well, and even when you do, you get this like gobble of nonsense at the end. He does it the fast way, but makes yeah. I mean, because the idea is, you know, your dropper will stick out to the side. Of course, that all goes away when you start putting bait and stuff on there, because but it does get it away from the main line. Um, yeah, so I was looking for knots for thick mono because I didn't want to use um, crimps. And the reason I didn't want to use crimps is because usually when I see people use crimps, they crimp the circle hook and they crimp the swivel side. Well, the problem that is when you crimp a circle hook, it's like so. So it just that whole trigger action and all this nonsense that we're supposed to be doing, so that we're pulling from the shank of the hook and not the eye and yada yada. So you end up with a loop on the end, which is not what I wanted. But at least in my preliminary testing at 20 and 40 pounds, I have found that the no knot loop knot is by far the strongest knot. Now, I did a video, a few weeks ago about an improvement, I think. And that doesn't seem to really affect the strength of the knot, doesn't lower it. But there's something special in that no knot snell knot. And I don't have the full deets yet because I'm not a physics major. But when you tie the no knot snell, okay, so this is your tag end, we all know that. So your standing end, you got all these wraps. And so when you start pulling, let me get the other side through here. Yeah, never get me started on stuff like this. So, one, you cannot hit the dreaded bend of the hook where the wire bends over to touch itself or comes close to touching itself, because this is the only knot where the standing end comes in from the side. So as long as you wrap it around the solid end, as opposed to starting on the part that's got the cut in it, you can't get your knot in there. You can't get the standing end in there. Plus, you're not immediately going into the twist. You've got, this amount of length before where am I? There we go. This amount of length before you start getting into the twist. And then you start pulling on the line, making those twists tighter, those turns. But you also have this extra piece of mono in between the hook and all of these wraps. So that acts as a buffer. And there are so many good things about this no knot knot. the biggest way to lose strength in line is to double it over. I mean, not, let me change that, not double it, to fold it in half, right? So the outer part of this is stretched, has too much pressure on it, and the inside is not doing anything as far as adding strength to that knot. So the tightest bend in this knot is around the hook shank. So the diameter of your hook shank helps make it stronger. And of course, there are two downsides to this knot. One is you have to have access to both ends of the line when you tie this knot. And the other is that, especially as you get into thicker mono, it wants to loosen itself up. It doesn't necessarily, it's not like it unravels itself completely, but it does make me lose a little sleep. And yes, I know if you try to kill this line, you can pull it tight enough that it kind of wants to stay in shape. But again, as you get heavier and heavier, then that becomes more of an issue. The other thing that I found is these little knot pullers are amazing. So, I mean, you need to have a swivel or something on this end, but you can hook in here and you can Hulk on these things. And I was amazed at how much the knot seats, even after I've just gone to town on it. And I start pulling on that knot or on the line, and the knot is still stretching and seating and stretching and seating. And I have learned a lot. I mean, I still have to get the fish to bite before any of this becomes usable, but I've learned a lot about knots. Right, it looks like it. Yes, that is the no knot snell. That is the number one knot used by cat fishermen, I would say. And it's a no. Might also called the knotless knot because there's no knot. I mean, if you get down to it, all a knot really is friction against itself anyway. But this is literally just. I mean, it is. I'll show it to you again since apparently you've never seen it. So you take the tag end, you run it through the front of the hook, the front being where the point is. You bring it down the back, and you just kind of hold it there. And then this is the part of the eye that is, so this is a solid piece of wire. It bends around and then it meets at the bottom. So you go over the top, you go, I don't know, you can do 5, 6, however many wraps you feel comfortable with. But you sit here and go, and you don't overlap your wraps. That's kind of an important thing. But I mean, you can go down there and just have a ball with it. And then you run the standing end through the back of the hook so that it comes out the front. Then you have all these nice little coil wraps, and then you have from the bottom of the where the standing end has come out. Sorry, at the bottom here, you've got this wrap that kind of goes around a little bit, and then that's it. I mean, that is, and I promise you, on 20-pound mono, you'll get at least 25 pounds of strength out of this. Most of the time, the line will break before anything around the knot does. 40-pound, same thing. Now, I don't know how thick that goes. A lot of people, see, yes, you're right, Matt. This is so easy to tie. It's so quick to tie. An idiot, including me, can tie it. And that's aside from the two issues I mentioned. I mean, if you want to get down to it, I mean, you got this one spot that is, in theory, can be braided and it breaks the whole knot. But that's with any knot, there is that piece that if it gets braided through, it's a dead knot. But it's so insanely simple. If it didn't, if you break off or you cut off and want to put a different hook on, you have to get access to both ends of the knot or of the line, of the leader line. And then, of course, like I said, the springiness where it wants to come undone. and it doesn't, 20 pound, this is 30 pound. 20 pound is not bad. 40 pound is meh. 60 pound is Um, but that's where I had talked about. So if before you cinch it all down, um, you push this tag end up just a little bit, then you can create a little gap right here, and you run your standing in through that and then out the front that way. And that will help give it a little bit of a knot so that it doesn't want to spring itself loose. Right, so snell knot, you can do a uni snell. Oh, I love y'all. Y'all gonna get me all rambling here. There's all kinds of snell knots you can do. There's the uni snell where you uh, come through and you loop around and you do 5 or 6 wraps like that. There's, let's see, there's the one where you just kind of double it down at the bottom and you start wrapping upwards, which would be easier if I was using the other hand. You wrap up, 7 or 8 times, and then you just tuck through that loop at the bottom. But again, all of these are going to hit that spot on the collar. And I've tried every uni or every snell knot I could find. If you think you've got a better one, send me a link. I will be happy to look at it. My email address is in the channel description. Seriously, I mean, because how on earth can the no knot snell? I mean, this is a children's knot. There's no knot. This is quick and easy. It can't possibly be a good knot. It is. It blows my mind. Another thing that I found from my testing, so like I say, pulls about 0.7 inches per second. A lot of the testing I would see would be people, who would pull as slowly as they could. Well, when you hook into a fish and he turns on you, so you're going to go, excuse me, I'm going to just go off this way. Or when you set the hook, you go, excuse me, I'm just going to pull nice and slowly. No, it's when you get that shock, right? That's the strength that you need. Doesn't matter how, and that's what I'm having when I talked about the braid, right? The shock is what breaks it every time. Oh, y'all have got me talking about all kinds of knots and stuff. The egg loop knot is, I think, pretty similar to the no knot snell, if I remember correctly, but we don't use eggs. As expensive as eggs are, I mean, why would you, right? Yes, I realize it's actually salmon eggs and you're fishing for salmon. But yeah, it's hey Arizona Highland Homestead. I'm sorry if I didn't say hi. I meant to. I saw you and was like, hey, Yeah, sea sturgeon. Yeah. Appreciate everybody joining in. I really do. I can't tell you how truly blessed I feel when I go live and anybody shows up. And Hitch, we talked about these microphones, the DJI mini mic mini, whatever it is. So I actually got the full kit. So it has the receiver and 2 transmitters. And I love it because the wind screens stay on it in the box. You can close the box with them on it. It's a charging box. Should get 2.5 times, I believe, out of this. So you can pair it to the receiver. You can pair it through Bluetooth, which this one is right now, so I don't have to use the receiver. It's not inexpensive. It's $169 for the kit. It also does come with a little bag somewhere. It is on. I'm guaranteed it was on my desk somewhere. Isn't it pretty? And you can keep your additional accessories and some stickers and stuff. And that's your camera cable in case you want to use 3.5 millimeter. And then there's your charging cable because we all don't have a ton of those. But it comes with 2 muffs per microphone. So if you get the black set, it comes with the black and the gray. If you get the white set, it comes with the white and a gray. And these snap onto the top, and they can come off. They don't fall off, but so and they only cover the hole in the microphone hole. And this should pulling the other one out shouldn't bother me because it's not actually hooked to anything. But you got the clip on it, and you have the magnet, which is what I'm using. But even with the dead cat on it, you still get access to all the buttons, which I mean there's two, and the two lights you can see. You may have to pull the muff out of the way a little bit, but and yeah, I can tell you that at least twice now I have gone to take my shirt off and gone, what's that? Oh, that's my microphone still. I actually came over last night. There's something on your shirt. Like, there's actually somehow I had managed to put it on inside out. Because it was just the little magnet was on the outside. I don't know. But this everything stays in here. It plugs into USB-C. You do need on the go for Android for that. If you want the Apple connector, that's another $19. It does not come with it, but there is a spot in the case where it can fit. And that 3.5 millimeter cable can actually fit around the top in here. So you can literally have everything you need, short of the charging cable, in this box, which is something that I've wanted and haven't found in other microphones at this price anyway. And then the only real thing that you can change on the receiver itself physically is either plus or minus 6 or plus or minus 12 decibels. And when you plug it into the phone and you have the DJI Mimo app, you can adjust some other settings. You watch all my videos? I don't even watch mine. So AZ Highland Homestead, better than the Palomar, you assume. I'm guessing you're talking about the no-knot snell. So it's only good for snell knots, which is the big problem with it. Otherwise, I would use it on everything. But for circle hooks, that's just so I don't poke myself when it breaks loose from the rigging equipment. You want it to pull from the shank of the hook and all that kind of stuff. So that's why you need a snell knot. But I expected the Palomar, because everybody, haven't we all heard, oh, it's 100% knot. The line will break before that knot breaks. Wrong. It's not terrible, but it's not the strongest. The strongest I've found on 20 and I think 40 pound, I'll have to go back and check my notes, is the trilane knot. And it's not a knot that I had ever really used before. I usually use the improved clinch knot or the clinch knot, depending, if it's thick mono, I'd just use the clinch knot because that extra running through the second time was a pain in the rear end. So I've learned a lot. I mean, Palomar was my go-to knot. And I was absolutely certain that this no-knot snell would not hold up at all. I mean, I'm like, this is junk. I mean, a 2-year-old could tie this. 2-year-old probably came up with it, right? It's the strongest snell knot, and it's not close. And the trilane knot is harder to mess up than the Palomar. I know that sounds silly because there's a little bit more step involved in the trilane knot. But if you get twists and such in the Palomar knot, it really weakens it. Tied perfectly every time, the Palomar knot probably would hold its own. But I know that I don't tie perfect knots. Yeah, Hitch, if you want to send me like 10 yards of line, Because I try to do at least 5 pulls, and sometimes I will do more. Um, and what I found through my testing is getting. Let me get my little notebook over here. Getting some inconsistent results. So let's see. Loop. Richard G. Loop knot. The uni snell. So like the uni snell. 14.9, 18.3, 16.0, 23.7, and 16.3. I had over a 10-pound difference in strength in just 5 knots. And the uni snell, the highest it got was 23.7. That silly loop snail where I showed you the loop at the bottom and then you twist it around and you go through the one. The highest on it was 15. I'm sorry, there was a 17.1, but it ranged from 13.3 to 17.1 strength on 20-pound mono. And that 20-pound mono breaks at around 28. The no-knot snell had 19.1. That was the lowest. 27.1, 26.4, 27.7, 28.8. Like I said, not even close. We'll check the Palomar real quick too. Double clinch. I was experimental nonsense. Improved clinch. Like the improved clinch, I went anywhere from 16.2 to 27. But hovering around that 20 to 22 mark. Clinch knot went from 16.1 to 22.6, but averaging probably around 18 and a half. So the improved clinch is an improvement over the clinch. It's another uni. Yeah, now the uni knot, just not the uni snell knot. I mean, it was about a 23-pound knot. It was not bad. There's my Palomar. Had to run the test twice because the first time either the video was in portrait or portrait instead of landscape, or I didn't turn the video on. But in 10 tests, the lowest was 16.9 and the highest was 28.1. But it averaged around 24-ish. So, I mean, the Palomar is not bad. Not bad at all. But it's not 100% knot. And that's what really gets me is these people that, this one's 100%, this one's 110%. And I guess if you're going against the rating of the line at 20 pounds, then okay. But the breaking strength of the line is around 28, give or take, right? But yes, there are some inconsistencies. Absolutely, there are some inconsistencies. I mean, that's the whole purpose. Look, 20 pound is the minimum, right? Even if you get an older spool that's been sitting on the shelf for a while, you should expect to get 20 pounds minimum out of it. So when you're, if that's the minimum strength, then you obviously have to shoot a little higher, right? Oh, Hitch. Gosh, blast you, dude. Man, you're going to kill me. So, 3 times. Twice I've been broken off, and one time the rod and reel went zoop off the dock. But 3 times in Pensacola, I have had something. And one of them was probably a ray, and another one I don't know what it was. I like to think that they were all jaws, but they broke me off. And what I was doing is when in Rome, right? So I watched all the guys down there and they do the Gulf fishing, and they all for the most part use spinning rigs. I've always used bait casters, but anyway, so I've got some spinning rigs, some nice spinning rigs, and they use braid. And they would talk about, their shock leaders. Well, okay, so I was using a 4 or 5 foot, I tie it onto a swivel and then have 4 or 5 foot. That's not a shock leader. That's a heartbreaker. The other thing that I found, and see if I've got any good remnants on the table right now. I don't think I do. No. But I always thought that, because we've all seen it, right? When you break a knot and you got that little curly cue at the end, and you're like, oh, well, clearly, my knot failed. I broke most of the knots that I break. You might see just a little discoloration at the very end, or maybe just a little something, a little curl, a slight curl or something. But I mean, not curls, just a little bit of. Let me take the trash. Like that. I can't. I realize you can't see that. Still can't see it, but I mean, some of them look pretty clean. Like I would not think that was the knot failing. I would think if I didn't know any different, I would have thought it was just the line snapping. That's what I thought was happening. Anyway, I've gone off on a tangent. So um, I've learned that what I need to do is have 10, at least 10 feet, probably closer to 30, 10, 20 yard. I don't know. I I don't measure it. It's a lot of line between where I transition from braid to mono to get that shock leader, so that when I'm fighting the fish, it's got a lot of extra mono to play with, to take some of the abrasion and the stretch and such. So where I was going with all that, Hitch, thank you for sticking around through that long speech, um, is things like the FG knot. Um, I've learned how to tie it. I like the knot, and I have tested once, and the mono broke. It was, I want to say, 20-pound mono on maybe 30-pound braid, or maybe 20-pound mono on 20 braid. I forget. But the mono broke, not the knot. I thought I'd share that because, yeah. Hey, real life. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I am honored that anytime anybody joins any of my streams. I mean, I would love to, have Catfish Dave or Kayak Catfish numbers, but just the fact that anybody shows up is truly a blessing. Um, anyway, um, yeah. So I've looked at the FG knot. I've looked at I've tied several FGs. I've learned how to tie it. The SC knot. I've looked at that a little bit. Um, I don't have a lot of faith in like uni to uni, mostly because just a uni on a hook or a swivel isn't strong enough. Um, and anyway, if there's any specific knots that you want me to test, let me know. I mean, I'm all for it. You've probably heard of this, but I doubt anybody else has. The San Diego Jam knot, the double San Diego Jam knot. Now, the double San Diego Jam knot is supposed to be extremely strong. The problem is, it's a pain in the butt to tie. Um, Everybody's like, well, what does that mean? So you go through double. You need a nice long doubled length of line here. So you go through the hook, and yes, this is a circle hook, and no, you wouldn't do this on a circle hook. So you come up, and you kind of double it back over on its over, not quite as far as the tag end goes. But halfway on that, you pinch. And now you're going to do like 5 wraps around this. And then you're going to go through the bottom loop, and then back up here through the top loop like an improved clinch. When you're done, you have 3 tag ends. 2 of them are a loop, and 1 of them is a normal tag end, and you trim all 3 of them. And with 30-pound mono, you saw me, because you're doubled up so much, as you're twisting around, you run out of line so easily. Um, and then in even thicker lines like 40 and 60 pound, it's like, this is like trying to tie baling wire. Um, I'm not arguing that the knot is not strong. I'm arguing that it's something you tie at home, not something you tie out on the water. Um, for the most part, the FG knot is going to be the same. Now, the FG knot can be tied. It's actually not nearly as difficult to tie on a boat as you might think, because you're going to put the rod in a rod holder, and you're going to wrap the braid around your pinky so that you've got the tension that you need, and then you just weave the mono in. So it's not nearly as bad. But like the San Diego jam knot is one of those where you're like, I think I need like 3 hands and 17 fingers to make this work. So you're usually going to be using some kind of a rigging board or a hook or something to act as that third hand for you. Anyway, the single San Diego jam is not nearly as difficult. But I'm not opposed to testing those kind of knots, but I want something that everybody's going to want to use, right? And especially when I did the testing on the no knot snell, I'm like, man, who wouldn't want to use this now? I mean, everything I thought I hated about the knot, that it couldn't possibly be strong, it's the strongest. When I'm testing other knots, I put this one on the other end. One, because it's easy. It's easier than the test I was doing, which was, putting a loop knot in one end, wrapping around here, and then wrapping it around the puller several times, and then hooking the hook on the other hook, and using that to pull. That's how I get my strength of the line. But it's just it's easier to do the no knot snell, and it's going to beat every other knot. And the one time out of 30 that it doesn't, it's like, okay, well, that's invalid. We'll try another one, right? I for as simple as the no knot snell is, I was sure it was going to be just a junk knot. That's not the San Diego jam knot. Now that's the double. Now the single is not as bad. So the single you only have to go through once. It's the same general steps. You come up top, you pinch, you put a finger in here, and then you run this one around the the 2 ends there 5 times or whatever. And then you go, oh, I think you go through the top first and then the bottom. But anyway, you do both, so that it's like an improved clinch, so it goes through both places. And you end up with a crusty amalgamation. Looks something like that. Yeah, the double, like I say, you have so many freaking so many tag ends, and it. I've tested it a little bit, and yes, it is a very strong knot, but I have this problem of having a loop and cutting both pieces of it, and somehow expecting that the knot's not going to just blow up. It doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, yeah, I mean, and that's Stacy. You're exactly right. I'm looking for. I'm trying to make things easier on everybody, especially myself. But I've always thought that the clinch knot was probably just about as strong as the improved clinch, and my reasoning was, if you're not pulling the knot loose, if it's not coming unraveled, you're not just pulling it out of itself, then why do you need the improved clinch? How does it add strength? It does. I mean, the clinch knot tests I did, none of them pulled out. They all broke. Because that, that was in my little juvenile mind. I'm thinking. I mean, the only reason we don't use double granny knots is because it'll pull out, and that's not the case at all. There's a whole science behind knots. That's not just physics; it's also mathematics. And anyway, it's. I watched some video, or I saw the title of the video of how knots help us understand the universe. Yeah, I just had smoke coming out of my ears and was like, I ain't watching that crap. Yeah, the San Diego Jam knot, I mean, the double is stronger than the single, which I guess is why they have. And one of the things that I learned through all of my testing is any knot that goes around the eye twice is stronger than the single. I always assumed that if it didn't break right here where the knot is in the hook, is going around the hook specifically, that would not make it stronger, right? Because it's not breaking there. So why would that? Anyway, I am learning a lot through these tests that I'm running, and I realize that some of them may be absolutely boring. And I'm pretty sure most of you have fallen asleep now, if you haven't already gone, let me out of this hellhole. But do you see how excited I've gotten about all of this stuff? I love learning things, and my preconceived notions, I tried to temper them, but I have surprised myself with these. It's and when I see other people do videos and they're like, well, here we did 3 tests and here are the results. Have a good day. And I'm like, there's a whole lot of trust me, bro, in this, and I don't trust you, bro. And 3 knots is really, 5 knots is really not a large enough sample size, but I had to cut it off somewhere, because we all know, any of us that have YouTube channels and look at the analytics, if you can keep somebody past 30 seconds, you're doing great in anything. I'm thinking it could be an OnlyFans type video and they would still leave after 30 seconds. TikTok has definitely killed the attention span of everyone, or it was already dead and they just capitalized on it. I don't know. So I try not to make the videos more than 10 minutes and try to get around that 5-minute mark if I can, which is why, but I want to show all my testing. Anyway, I'm sorry. There's 3 of you left. Thank God for the 3 of you. One of them's probably me. 2 of them maybe me. Thank you guys for watching. Yeah, the double, it distributes load. Yeah, I understand that. But, and yes, it does make perfect sense. But if it wasn't breaking there, then why would it matter? And does that make, how do I don't know how to, I'm not explaining myself very well, but I would think that the weakest point is going to be the weakest point no matter what. So I felt like I would be trying to shore up the weak part, not shore up a part that wasn't weak to make the whole thing stronger. But yeah, yes, what you're saying absolutely makes sense. It's just not how I thought of things, because I'm a creep, I'm a weirdo, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. I'm going to bed. Hour and 45 minutes talking about much of nothing. And thank you all for watching. You're all a blessing to me. And for those who haven't liked and subscribed, I don't blame you at all. I wouldn't watch me either. Thanks everybody. Have a good night. We will see you guys next time.